As a coach, you have to demonstrate your competence, build your credibility, promote your business, and differentiate yourself from your competition. When you develop strong presentation skills, you will be perceived as the expert you are. Imagine walking out of a client meeting into a boardroom presentation and then into a luncheon to deliver a keynote presentation. In each situation, you made an indelible connection and were a rousing success that resulted in requests for appointments to discuss engaging you. Could that happen? Yes, when you become a powerful, persuasive presenter. And I can help you.
How do coaches make an impact, grow their business, and be profitable? That's the topic of the conversation today. And we're going to talk about the ICF Midwest conference that is coming up. We've got Jason here today from ICF, and we've got the lovely Miss Patricia Fripp. For those of you who don't know Patricia, she is an award-winning keynote speaker and professional speech coach. And she's going to be speaking at ICF Midwest Converge. Let's see what that's all about. I'm going to start a video right now.
Announcing the 2018 Midwest Region Coaches Conference. Our theme this year is creating connections in the city.
Stop video. Now that was very strange. Let's try that again.
Announcing the 2018 Midwest Region Coaches Conference. Our theme this year is creating.
Well, we all love technology when it works.
Right, exactly.
You can tell this is live and not a dress rehearsal. And that's what happens. And the advantage of being a professional is you go to plan to, even if you didn't have a plan to.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So true. So true. So when you wear all the hats.
It's when you wear all the hats. Well, for those of you who are first joining us, we can go to the ICFMidwest.com and watch the video there because apparently our system is not working appropriately right now. Anyways, 20% of North American businesses, a recent survey that came out by Inc. just this January, and it talked about how this year there's going to be a 27% increase on professionals who are going to be learning about management leadership skills, technical skills, and career development. And so they're going to be spending a lot more on learning programs. And this is going to directly affect the coaching market, obviously. Mm-hmm. Did you hear about that at all? Either of you?
Oh, no. That's exciting.
Isn't that exciting?
You as the authority to keep me up to date with such statistics, Lisa.
Well, I think it's pretty exciting that that's what's happening. And I think that's going to be a huge game changer, not only for the coaching industry, but for the professional development training industry, the continuing education and careers and advancements. So first of all, Patricia, I'm going to ask you, what can people expect when they come to the ICF Midwest and they see you at the event at 11 o'clock on Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
What they will be learning from my specific session is how they can build their business and their credibility and more powerfully present their ideas. In other words, it's by being an expert, how does that make it easier for you to sell your own skills and services? So that's what we will be doing. And it's most specifically, whether you're talking to one person, 5 people, or 50 or 500 people, how can you present yourself professionally? Because all speaking is public speaking, and people don't always realize that the techniques keynote speaker might use are actually the same techniques that you would use to build a rapport with somebody at a networking event or in a potential client conversation.
And I think too, and Jason, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the struggles that many coaches have is how to effectively pitch their ideas in front of an audience or talk and communicate to their clients effectively about strategies that they're trying to deal with. Would you say that that's a fair statement, Jason?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. It's what I call the difference between at the end of your speech, your audience saying, "Oh, that was interesting, thanks," or saying, "I really want to talk with you more. How can I get together? What's next? Like, what can we do?" It's the difference between those two things that mix. And it's so true, because even if you're talking to a big group, you're only talking to one person at a time. You're not talking to a stadium.
And Jason just mentioned what is one of the key principles to making an emotional connection to an audience, and that is you might have 500 people in front of you, but you actually talk to one person, and everyone hears, "Wow, Jason's talking just to me," or "Lisa's talking just to me." And so you don't say everyone in the room, you say, "How often have you had an opportunity?" So it really is a very important technique that many top professionals overlook.
And so, Jason, what else can people expect when they come to the ICF conference?
Well, this conference is really going to be an amazing experience. We've put a lot of effort into designing the experience to meet some objectives. One is that we wanted it to be relaxing. You know, you've been to conferences where it's like, yeah, like seminar after seminar after seminar, and this and this and that and that and this, and it's so packed you don't even have time to breathe, to reflect, to think. And so we've designed it so that there is space to actually reflect, connect with other people, because we as coaches recognize there's multiple levels of learning going on. There's the learning that you do from your peers. There's the learning that you do from great presenters like Patricia. There's learning that happens in the processing of that information, as well as like, you know, the vendors and on all kinds of levels. So we're working on like really trying to facilitate that. And we have 4 great tracks this year. We have a client connections, which is all about increasing your impact and your coaching skill. We have the science connections, which is really, there's so much that's come out in neuroscience that has really validated the power of coaching and is also giving us more tools and techniques to think about how to even be more effective in our coaching. There's the business connection, which of course, you know, Patricia is going to make a huge difference and a big impact in that area of the business area, and we have some other great presenters there too. And there's a global connection, because it doesn't really matter where you are, it's multicultural. It's like there is no homogenous cultures anymore. So like, what's the global connection? So the connection of like how are you working and operating so that you're actually adapting to the cultures and the situations that you're in? So it's really got a lot of breadth, and we've got a lot of fantastic presenters. And our opening presenter is coming all the way from Australia.
Yes.
Yes, I have not seen Amanda Gore for quite a few years. The last time was at the National Speakers Association. But yes, she has a lot of energy. But you're so true. I, of course, work a lot with the technology companies in Silicon Valley. And I train all teachers. You don't have to leave your own city to have an international audience that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Which is a very important reason that I teach specificity builds credibility. Because if even intelligent, well-educated individuals, if English is their second or third language, they have to do a certain amount of interpreting. And if you're not clear, so, for example, one engineer I've just been working with, with part of his presentation, he said there are 2 things people love about. And I asked him, if they weren't things, what would they be? He said, innovative upgrades. I said, there are plenty of people in the world. Who are the people? He said, system administrators. So can you imagine the difference between there are 2 innovative upgrades that systems engineers love, that is specific, it is powerful, and it builds your credibility when you use those quality of words. And if you want a competitive edge when you're selling yourself, your services, and the outcomes of what your clients enjoyed working with you, you have to paint a better picture and sound more credible than your competition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so true.
And you know, I'm speaking with coaches on a regular basis who are trying to grow their business and grow their influence. And public speakers obviously are very good at, you know, being on stage and growing their influence. And one of the biggest challenges that they're faced with is actually how do they position their message in front of an audience? And when they step off the stage or they step off a breakout, how do they position their services appropriately to meet the audience's needs? Continuing education is often a really good portal to do that, because once they're approved and accredited, like Patricia's an approved provider. So after coaches are completed with their training at the conference, they can actually engage in her courseware for continuing education credits or continuing coaching education credits. And so she's got core competencies and RD competencies available. But coaches can also get their session materials and their breakouts accredited for continuing education as well for a multitude of industries. So that's really another important way to get a competitive edge and have an impact on their coaching business. And one of the big things that we often talk about with some of the coaches is that, you know, how do you really position that first 30 seconds when you're speaking to an audience so that you grab their attention? And then how do you make an impact after the last 30 seconds? And there is nobody better to tell you how to do that than Patricia.
Well, do you need me to prove that now that you've made that bold statement?
I do.
Well, let us imagine that you are in a meeting with a prospect or a client. After the pleasantries, you need to communicate that now our meeting is starting. It is now, we're getting serious. Because even if a prospect or a customer or a client says, okay, let's have an hour meeting, you know they can be pulled away. So you need to be polite, and you need to get to the point fast. So it could just be as simple as the purpose of this meeting, Lisa, is to update you on. So get to the point. Or it could be if you are having a conversation about doing business with them, never say, thank you for your time. Everybody in the world does this. And if you want a competitive edge, you can't sound the same as everybody else that sells services and products a lot less than yours. So it might be, Lisa, thank you for the opportunity to discuss if our coaching approach is what you are looking for. So it's getting the point. Now, if, let's just say you were going along in the conversation, because many of the opening lines that you can use in conversation can be used at different parts. So let's imagine you have talked about your approach, what their needs are, and you feel this is a good match. And you might say, Lisa, imagine it is February the 22nd, 2019, and you paint a scene of what that would be. Is that what you're trying to get to? And they'll say, well, yes. Is it possible? Well, Lisa, it depends on the decision we make today. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to be considered to be your coach and trusted advisor. Is there any part of the approach that you don't think would work with you? So you can use it. Now, look at how you might open a presentation. Let's imagine you have an opportunity in your community to speak to 50 local business professionals, people who would be ideal for you. You know that. And you are certainly going to schmooze the audience. You're going to be well prepared. You're going to test the technology so you can wander around and engage the audience, because you build rapport long before you hit the stage. And if they like you and they say, wow, I've never had a guest speaker come over and shake my hand and talk to me and ask me what my concerns are. And then you can go up and use the same approach, imagine, and paint the picture. And then you might say, thank you for the opportunity to present the findings of my 15 years of consulting. And then what you're going to do is Jason, you mentioned that you would get your time and money's worth at this meeting. So what you're doing, Lisa, is you're engaging the audience and you're asking them questions, and you've got a well-structured presentation, but you put these comments in as if you are putting together the program on the spot, and they think, wow, does she know what she's talking about? These are all techniques. And sometimes we are in situations where we have to introduce ourselves, but you never introduce yourself at the beginning. You might build rapport with the audience. You walk on stage and you say, if I were to ask you, is 2018 the year you double your business? Perhaps you'd say yes. Perhaps you'd say no. Most likely you'd say, oh, Patricia, can you tell me how? Well, congratulations. You're at the right place at the right time. In 58 minutes, you will learn, blah, blah, blah. And then in case we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I'm Patricia Fripp. And in my role as your presenter, see, it's not, I'm your presenter. Oh, really? She's my presenter? No, I mean, these are just techniques. But one key point, you never walk into a room or walk into a conference or walk on stage without knowing what your opening line is.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think actually you might have just created the opening line for your presentation at the ICF Midwest.
Well,
yeah, that sounds good.
I could, but just in case someone turns up, I might have to do something different. You could incorporate that. I could start with a story. And this is another technique. I can start with a story about somebody who typically matches the person in the audience.
Yeah. And really, Patricia, those are really good and beneficial strategies to use even just in coaching engagements. And it doesn't have to be, in front of a massive audience on a big stage, right, Jason? I mean, Jason, you're a coach. You could use those very effectively in your coaching engagements with a small group of 5, perhaps.
Right, because it's all a conversation with one person.
Yeah.
And whether like Patricia pointed out earlier, whether it's a big group or whether it's one, you're always only talking to one person. And I think sometimes when we're talking to one person, we think, we don't need to be engaging out of the gate. I have their attention. They're looking right at me. But when you can use a technique like that to really draw them in, like, oh, you're interesting, right? It becomes a filter for the rest of the experience they have with you, with how they perceive you, your credibility. It really sets it up and sets that moment. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You bring up another really important point, Jason, because to be considered interesting, you have to be interested. And the key to connection at networking events, because people will learn as probably, if they are wise, as much wandering around the trade show and in the luncheons and the breaks and collaborating after the sessions. Very wise to build in time, because I always recommend take what you think you learned in this session and then teach somebody else. So if people sit down and say, all right, what were the best ideas you learned in the last breakout session? You tell me yours, I'll tell you mine, and you collaborate. Right. It increases it. But when you are meeting someone in a situation like at the conference, you'll be meeting new, exciting, wonderful, brilliant people. And also when you are at any event or with a client, the key to connection is conversation. The secret of conversation is to ask questions. And the quality of the information you receive depends on the quality of your questions.
And if you're not genuine, people can read through that immediately when you're having a conversation in the first 30 seconds. They can tell whether or not you're truly interested in them or if you're just there for other purposes. Yeah. So Jason, what is one of the trends, the feedback that you're trying to do at ICF Midwest Conference this year?
So, well, with a theme that we've chosen around like really creating connections, that really kind of threads all the way through to whether it's without connection to your client, you don't have a client, you don't have an engagement. You know, connection is so necessary, and so we're really threading that theme through everything from the science that reinforces what we're doing to the best practices in business and being able to connect with that client before they become a client, when they're still a prospect or when they're seeing you speak on stage or whatever that looks like. And then just really like, you know, everything in the competencies, the coach competencies is to be able to connect and really get somebody. You know, the magic is when you really get the client and they feel that and experience that. And that's something that is what has my clients and other people's clients be like, wow, this is coaching. Because, you know, nobody is really heard in the world. Everybody's running around saying like, why doesn't anybody listen to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when
Absolutely.
they really are heard, especially by a trained listener, like a coach, they're like, wow, can I talk to you forever?
Well, then I find too, you know, I've had several conversations actually in the last couple of weeks where people truly don't understand what is the difference between a coach and a mentor and a consultant. And so this is a really great platform for somebody who's thinking about getting into the coaching industry to really understand what is the difference between a coach, a mentor, and a consultant. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Well, absolutely. And that, you know, I think that's a big job for those of us, the coaches in the industry, as well as ICF, the International Coaching Federation, to really make a big priority in terms of like educating the public to really understand the distinction of, you know, what coaching is. You know, even though as coaches we're often a coach and a speaker, or a coach and a trainer, or we're a coach, you know, and a consultant, right? But it's being able to distinguish those hats. I'm going to take my coaching hat off now and I'm going to share something with you. But now when I go back into coaching mode, now we're into the inquiry, listening, understanding, and helping you discover clarity through your own thoughts and ideas. So yeah, definitely. I mean, it's up to all of us to be mindful of our practice, because I catch myself, I'm like, I'm slipping out of coaching right now, but I didn't distinguish with either the audience or the person I'm talking to, and like trying to keep that distinction clear in my own individual work. So that's my personal responsibility. And then it's our responsibility as a community to be able to like go, you know, not only here's the value of this, but when people are really clear on the distinction of what that is and how it distinguishes from the others.
Well, then it changes the expectations as well, right?
Sure it does. Yeah.
So Patricia, you work with professional speakers all the time, meeting planners and events, and Jason's obviously on the committee that has created this wonderful event that we're going to be going to. So if you're to give him any lasting piece of advice before we go in regards to when he's working with his speakers and obviously the master of ceremonies of the event and what have you, is there any last piece of advice that you could give him that could help him navigate through that process?
Well, you have to be very organized when you have a conference at this size. I have no idea how you could possibly do it, but you don't do it alone. That's the point. I would, from me as a presenter, I need to very clearly know what you expect from me, what my time frames are, and I would always recommend you do what I do for myself. Give false deadlines. If you want something in by the 1st of April, you tell them this is due, knock down, drag out on the 25th of March. Well, in reality, you need it on the 7th of April.
And you have lots of experience because, and I don't know if you know this or not, Jason, but Patricia has actually gone to conferences and actually coached and guided and mentored the whole speaking team prior to the conference, so that the conference is very impactful and engaging. So there's a little plug for Patricia there, just saying that that's some of the things that she does and opportunities to work with her directly from a conference committee perspective as well.
Yeah, what a great value.
You're just going to get continuing coaching education while she's there. They can get it afterwards, and can get help from you, or you can get help from her in regards to the conference itself.
Cool. Very cool.
All right.
what you, I don't know if you do this, Jason, but many speakers have their own type of speaker's questionnaire. I would come up, and what I've advised my clients, have a generic one which includes every question any speaker has ever asked you. Have it in one document that you can send out to everybody. This is what we expect. This is the frequently asked questions. And if it could, at the top, I would say, we all want you to be a rousing success and have this a wonderful experience for our audience.
Yeah.
And this is exactly who the makeup of the audience is. This is our expectations and deadlines and you. This is what we do to make it. This is who you would talk to if you want that. And then all the frequently asked questions and information, and you will save time. And every day you can think, was there any question that came up that what we hadn't answered? Put it on the sheet. It's a living document from year to year.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it just won't be that. And do you have this conference every year, Jason?
The regional conference is every 2 years, so we alternate with a global conference.
Yeah.
So there's a global conference that I think the next time is, I think it's going to be out of the United States next time. Not sure, I don't remember off the top of my head where that's at, but this one is this is the Midwest Regional Conference, a region conference, and so this one is in Pittsburgh, and so the region one alternates every other year.
Excellent. Good. Well, thank you.
Pittsburgh is fabulous. Got to put a
It
plug.
really is.
Andy Warhol, Carnegie Museum of Natural History.
Oh my
Go a
gosh.
day early and go to Kentucky Knob and what is it? Waterfall, the Frank Lloyd Wright home.
Yes.
Spectacular. Make it your vacation while you're investing in your career.
Right. It's a write-off vacation.
Very good. Well, thank you for the opportunity, Jason and Patricia, and I look forward to seeing you and meeting you, Jason, in person in Pittsburgh in June, as I'm sure Patricia does as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. You guys are terrific. This is a class act. This was a whole lot of fun. Thanks for including me.
Take care.
Bye.